On February 10th, 2026, at 10 minutes past noon, the FBI released the images that would change everything in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. For 10 agonizing days, the entire nation had watched, holding its collective breath. For 10 days, an elite team of investigators and tech specialists waged a silent war, diving deep into the ghost world of back-end server systems. They scoured digital ashes in a desperate hunt that seemed all but impossible, to resurrect video from a doorbell camera that was deliberately destroyed in the pre-dawn hours of February 1st. And for 10 days, the family of anchor Savannah Guthrie was trapped in a private hell, with no idea where their 84-year-old mother could possibly be. Was she even alive? Would they ever have the chance to see her face again? Every day, Nancy went without her life-saving medication. The crisis spiraled deeper. Every hour of silence from her captor made hope a flickering candle in the wind. Each moment of uncertainty was another twist of the knife for a family already paralyzed by the unknown. Then, at 12:10 p.m. on Tuesday, February 10th, the stalemate shattered. The world finally saw the phantom, captured in stark, chilling black and white. The video revealed a methodical figure, armed, his face a void behind a mask, his hands concealed in gloves. He advanced on Nancy Guthrie's front door under the cloak of darkness, on the very morning the nightmare began. This critical evidence first broke on FBI Director Kash Patel's X account. There were 6 photographs and 3 video clips. Each frame illuminated another piece of the terrifying puzzle, showing how Nancy Guthrie was stolen from the safety of her own home. The public release sent a shockwave through the nation. The official statement read, law enforcement had uncovered previously inaccessible images of an armed subject tampering with the camera. That single phrase, previously inaccessible, carried the full weight of 10 days of relentless, high-stakes digital excavation. 10 days where FBI specialists and their allies refused to believe the video was lost forever. 10 days fueled by a burning resolve to unearth the very evidence the perpetrator thought they had successfully erased from existence. The footage, painstakingly rebuilt from phantom data on server networks, confirmed their worst suspicions. This was no random act of violence. This was not a crime of opportunity. This was meticulously planned and executed with ice-cold precision by an individual who was in complete control. Someone who anticipated the camera's presence and came fully prepared to dismantle it. Someone with a deep understanding of security systems and exactly how to break them. This person had thought of everything. Now, for the first time in 11 days, we are looking at the person responsible for Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. We cannot see a face. We do not have a name, but we can see their methods, their tactics, their chilling preparation. We observe the armed subject approach Nancy's door at 2 a.m., carrying a backpack filled with tools. We see the gloved hands reaching toward the camera. We see the lens being carefully obscured by what seems to be plant matter. We are witnessing the systematic takedown of the defenses meant to protect an 84-year-old woman living alone. We are watching evil at work. Just minutes after the FBI's release, Savannah Guthrie broadcast the images to millions of her followers on Instagram. Her caption was short, but heavy with the agony of a 10-day vigil. "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home." Within the hour, the new surveillance evidence had been seen by President Donald Trump. The White House then made a public plea, urging any citizen who recognized the suspect to call the FBI immediately. The case had already captivated the country, sparking countless tips and theories. But now, they finally had something solid. A clear shot of the face would have been a miracle, but this was a start. This gave them a physical build, a distinctive gait, a style of movement, the outline of a mustache beneath the mask, a backpack, clothing, and other tells. It was a collection of traits that could be just enough for someone, somewhere, to realize exactly who they were looking at. The question that has shadowed this investigation from the beginning now has a laser focus. Who is the person concealed by that mask? Not as a vague theory, not as a faceless profile, but as a specific, identifiable human being. Who is the individual captured by Nancy Guthrie's camera in the final moments before she was taken? Somebody knows. Someone out there is watching this footage right now. And something about it feels disturbingly familiar, even if they can't place why. Maybe it's just an unsettling flash of recognition. Perhaps the build looks like an acquaintance. It could be a walk that is identical to a neighbor's, a contractor's, or someone they see every day. That flicker of doubt could be everything. This is the developing story of the surveillance footage that has brought us face to face with the shadow who took Nancy Guthrie. We will dissect the haunting details captured just before the camera went dead, and the incredible technological feat that salvaged this crucial evidence after 10 days of exhaustive work. These are the crucial details authorities believe someone watching right now can use to identify the person in this footage. It's why they are convinced that within the tidal wave of tips flooding the FBI's command center in Tucson lies the one clue that will blow this entire case wide open. It's why, even after 10 days of agonizing silence, they still hold on to hope. Even with ransom deadlines having come and gone, and despite the crushing uncertainty, they believe Nancy Guthrie can still be saved. The footage itself is deeply unsettling. The implications are terrifying. The hope it offers is a fragile thread. But after 10 long days of searching in the dark, this is the first tangible lead investigators have offered to the public. A face to find. A clear target. The masked individual in this video was certain they had taken the camera offline. They believed the recording was gone forever. They were sure every trace had been erased. They were dead wrong. Now, a desperate race against time is underway to unmask this person before it's too late, before Nancy's medical needs become a full-blown crisis. Before her captor panics, the FBI is betting everything on someone recognizing this figure. The Guthrie family is praying that a single person will find the courage to step forward, and an entire country is watching, hoping the public's eyes can see what the investigation has so far missed. 10 days ago, this video was a ghost. As far as authorities knew, the camera was dead, its data wiped or hopelessly lost. Today, it is the absolute cornerstone of an investigation that has marshaled federal, state, and local agencies on a scale rarely seen in Arizona's history. Today, this footage is the last hope for an 84-year-old woman dependent on daily medication, a woman with severely limited mobility, a woman Sheriff Chris Nanos described as mentally sharp as a tack but physically vulnerable, who can still be returned safely to her family. Today, this video stands as absolute proof that even the most meticulous plans leave a trail. Even the most careful criminals make mistakes. Even evidence that appears permanently lost can be resurrected by specialists who simply refuse to fail. The person in this recording made a single, catastrophic error. They failed to account for residual data. They were completely unaware that long after the camera was disabled, long after the feed went black, digital ghosts of what it recorded could be salvaged by experts who knew exactly where to look. That one mistake may be what brings Nancy Guthrie home. That single miscalculation could be what sentences the person responsible to a life behind bars. And that single error may finally give the Guthrie family the closure they have prayed for since that Sunday morning Nancy vanished, leaving only blood on her front porch. This is the story of that mistake. And this footage is the proof. This is the precise moment a blind search pivots into the relentless pursuit of a single person. And you, watching right now, could be the one who sees the vital clue. You might be the person whose phone call changes everything, because someone out there knows who this is. And the FBI, alongside the Pima County Sheriff's Department, the Guthrie family, and a nation gripped by this tragedy, are all counting on that one person to come forward, now. Before we break down every single frame of this pivotal video and explain what the FBI is desperately asking you to find, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell, here at the Investigation Room. We dive deep into the latest developments in active criminal cases, dissecting evidence as it is released and explaining exactly what authorities need from you. We are dedicated to the facts, to official agency releases, and to professional analysis, helping you understand how these cases evolve in real time. We provide breaking coverage and deep dive reports every single week. If you are following the search for Nancy Guthrie and want our detailed breakdown of this new video, please hit that like button and share your observations in the comments. Does anything about this person's build, their movements, or their general presence seem familiar to you? Now, let's dissect exactly what the FBI has shown the world, and why these images mark the most critical turning point in the case since Nancy disappeared. To understand the immense importance of today's release, to fully appreciate why this surveillance footage is such a monumental breakthrough, you first need to understand the wall of silence investigators have been fighting for the past 10 days. You need to know who Nancy Guthrie is, what happened on that terrible Saturday night, and the extraordinary technical skill that brought this video back from the dead. Nancy Long Guthrie was born on January 27, 1942, in Fort Wright, Kentucky. She is known to the world as Savannah Guthrie's mother, but she is also a woman with her own powerful history and a remarkable life story. She was a student at the University of Kentucky, where, back in 1963, she worked for the student-run newspaper, the Kentucky Colonel. Her story began within the halls of Notre Dame Academy, a private, all-girls Catholic school in Park Hills, Kentucky. It was there she started a journey, building a life, raising a family, and becoming a cherished grandmother. For over 50 years, since the early 1970s, the Tucson area had been her home. She was married to Charles Guthrie, until his life was tragically cut short at age 49 during a mining exploration in Mexico, back in 1988. That devastating loss, nearly 4 decades ago, forged her into a woman of fierce independence. She was a mother to 3 children, Savannah, Annie, and Cameron. Even at 84, she was the grandmother who played games with her grandkids, who never missed a family dinner, a vital, irreplaceable heart of her family. By every account, Nancy was sharp and utterly self-reliant. Sheriff Chris Nanos would later confirm this, describing her as being sharp as a tack. He made it clear this was not a case of dementia or cognitive decline. Nancy Guthrie knew exactly who she was and where she was, but while her mind was a fortress, her body contended with the frailties of age. At 84, her mobility was limited. Though she lived independently in her affluent Catalina foothills home, she relied on daily medication for critical health conditions. A pacemaker was fitted beneath her skin, a silent guardian regulating her heartbeat, its status monitored constantly through an app on her smartphone. Missing even a single day of her medication, in the sheriff's grim assessment, could be fatal. This is the woman who vanished 11 days ago. She is not a statistic, not just another headline. She is a real person with a full life, a loving family, and critical medical needs that become more desperate with every passing hour. Saturday, January 31st, 2026, began like any other day. That night, she took a rideshare to her daughter's home for dinner and a game night. For Nancy, this was routine. A cherished night with her children and grandchildren. It was an ordinary Saturday evening, the kind shared by countless families across the country. Investigators have pieced together the timeline. Nancy thoroughly enjoyed her evening. There was dinner, laughter, and games. Then, at 9:48 p.m., a family member drove her back to her home. 9:48 p.m. This moment is critical. It is the last confirmed time anyone saw Nancy Guthrie safe and sound. She arrived home. Her family member watched her go safely inside. Everything seemed perfectly normal. The house was secure, alarms active. Nancy was home for the night. Her family drove away without a single worry. She had made this trip countless times. She was home. She was safe, or so they thought. What happened next was pieced together by digital ghosts, timestamps, and recently recovered surveillance footage. At 1:47 a.m. on Sunday, February 1st, less than 4 hours after she got home, her doorbell camera went blind. This was not a glitch. It was not a power failure. The device was deliberately taken offline. At the time, no one could have known its significance. They would later understand it was the opening act of an abduction. Roughly 30 minutes later, at 2:17 a.m., the recovered video shows the camera detected motion. A figure approached her front door, masked, equipped with a backpack and a holstered weapon. This person anticipated the camera and came prepared. The surveillance footage, unearthed after 10 days of painstaking investigation, documents this approach. We see the figure advancing toward the door with cold, calculated purpose. We see gloved hands reaching toward the camera, witnessing the deliberate act of obstructing its view. Then, at 2:28 a.m., just 11 minutes after the figure appeared, Nancy's pacemaker monitoring app lost its connection. 2:28 a.m. The app monitoring her very heartbeat went dark. 11 minutes after a stranger appeared at her door. This chilling timeline, confirmed by video evidence, reveals the terrifying sequence of events. An individual approached at 2:17 a.m. This person disabled the camera. This person breached Nancy's home. And in the space of 11 minutes, her pacemaker app was disconnected. What took place inside those 11 minutes? What occurred in the moments after authorities believe an intruder was inside Nancy's house for a total of 41 minutes? There is no video from inside the residence. There is no audio. We do not have Nancy's account of what she endured. All that remains is silence. A digital void. The cameras are offline, the lifeline is cut, and Nancy Guthrie is gone. Sunday morning arrived in Tucson, Arizona, as if nothing had happened at all. It was a peaceful Sunday morning, a day for family and faith for Nancy Guthrie. The morning service was an unbreakable ritual, so when her usual seat remained empty, a chilling silence began to grow. Nancy was a pillar of reliability. To miss church without a word was unthinkable, and for her to let calls from her family ring unanswered, impossible. Just before noon on February 1st, her frantic relatives finally called the Puma County Sheriff's Department, pleading for a welfare check. When deputies arrived at her home in the Catalina foothills, what they found would unleash an investigation that would grip Arizona for years. The first jarring clue, Nancy was gone. The second was the house itself. An unsettling stillness hung in the air. It hadn't been ransacked, not in the traditional sense, but a symphony of wrongness echoed from the walls, screaming that Nancy hadn't just left. Then, on the front stoop, they found blood. Not a horrific scene, but tiny, damning droplets, clear evidence of a violent struggle. Footage later obtained by CBS News showed the world those same crimson specks, staining the entryway to her home. Forensics would soon confirm the blood was Nancy's through DNA. But another discovery twisted the knife. Her doorbell camera was dead. Her Nest camera, the silent witness that should have filmed everything, had gone dark hours before. Her pacemaker's monitoring app had lost its signal at 2:28 in the morning, and Nancy herself had vanished into thin air. That single detail escalated everything. This was no longer a simple missing persons case. This wasn't an elderly woman lost in confusion or someone who'd taken a sudden trip. Every piece of evidence screamed abduction from an active crime scene. The race was on to find an 84-year-old woman who depended on daily medication to survive. A massive investigation was officially underway. That's when Sheriff Chris Nanos made a decision that would define the entire case. He didn't just call for search parties. He called in the homicide unit. Not just the standard missing persons teams, but his elite homicide detectives investigators reserved for only the most brutal and violent of crimes. Why deploy his top investigators for a case publicly labeled as a kidnapping? The answer, as Nanos later revealed in a press conference, was bone-chillingly simple. There is something that is not right here. The pieces of the puzzle, they already had the bloodstains, the deactivated cameras, the silent pacemaker app, all of it, when combined with Nancy's complete disappearance, pointed to a truth far more sinister than a simple abduction. Bringing in homicide specialists from the start meant the crime scene would be processed with absolute precision, building a case for a trial that was yet to come. Every fiber, every print, was meticulously collected. The chain of custody was ironclad, ready to stand in any court of law. But as forensic teams worked tirelessly, a ghost was already haunting the investigation from its very first moments. Their single most critical piece of evidence, the surveillance footage, had vanished. The Nest camera aimed at her door, the one thing that should have seen the culprit, had been disabled at 1:47 in the morning. Every conventional method to recover the footage came back empty. It was obvious the camera had been deliberately neutralized, its data corrupted or wiped clean. For the investigators, this was a devastating setback. Video evidence is the key that unlocks cases like this one. A glimpse of a face, a getaway car, a license plate, anything to give them a tangible lead. Without it, all they had was blood evidence proving Nancy was injured and a digital timeline showing when her defenses went down. They knew an intruder had been inside her home for approximately 41 minutes, but they had no face, no idea who this phantom was. And then, a technological miracle occurred. What the public didn't know, a secret held close until this very day, was that investigators never gave up on that video. For 10 grueling days, FBI tech specialists worked with private industry titans, firms that specialized in resurrecting impossible data. These weren't just technicians. They were digital necromancers. They knew a Nest camera stores data in more than one place. They understood the hidden world of back-end systems, of cloud architecture, of residual data ghosts. Their mission went beyond the camera on the wall. They were on a digital archaeological dig, hunting for the faintest echoes of data that might still exist in the vast ecosystem of the cloud. Modern security cameras don't just record to a local device. They stream data to distant servers, create hidden backups, and leave digital breadcrumbs where no one thinks to look. For 10 straight days, these experts combed through those back-end systems, meticulously analyzing every fragment of leftover code. They used every tool in their arsenal to piece together what that camera witnessed before it went blind. And against all odds, they succeeded. It wasn't the whole story, not by a long shot. The attacker had been clever, cutting the feed before they breached the home, hiding what happened in that terrifying 41-minute void. But they had recovered the prelude. They had restored the video from the final moments, right before the nightmare began. From a single, crucial moment, they recovered everything the instant a cloaked figure approached the door, their hand reaching out to destroy the camera. It was enough to confirm the suspect was armed, enough to witness the cold, calculated prelude to the horror that would follow, enough to capture key identifiers: their clothing, their backpack, and even a mustache just visible beneath the mask. Enough, investigators pray, for someone out there to finally give this shadow a name. In a statement this morning, FBI Director Kash Patel revealed the breakthrough was thanks to a vital alliance between federal agents and tech masters from the private sector. Through our joint efforts, he announced, as of this morning, law enforcement has retrieved these new images, which we thought were lost forever, once considered gone for good. For 10 days, the world believed this footage was erased. For 10 days, it seemed the attacker had scrubbed every trace of their crime. They were wrong. Today, the public finally saw what technicians managed to claw back from the digital abyss: the haunting image of an armed figure in a mask, with gloved hands and a tactical backpack, systematically bringing down the home's security. The very proof they tried to destroy has now become the epicenter of a massive, multi-agency investigation that has the nation on edge. And today, the digital experts who refuse to believe gone was the final answer delivered something invaluable to the investigators and the Guthrie family. They delivered hope. Not just the desperate hope that Nancy could still be found alive, a fragile belief held even after days without her life-sustaining medication, but a new kind of hope that the perpetrator can finally be exposed, a hope that the meticulous planning, so clear in the footage, the painstaking preparation, that the methodical execution of the crime was not as perfect as they believed, a hope that in this digital age, even with disabled cameras and corrupted data, determined experts can resurrect what criminals think they have buried. As we break down the surveillance video released today, we can finally build a timeline forged from 10 grueling days of investigation. The facts are grim. Nancy Guthrie's last confirmed sighting was at 9:48 p.m. on January 31st, returning home from a family dinner. The timeline reveals everything. Her doorbell camera went dark at 1:47 a.m. on February 1st. 30 minutes later, at 2:17 a.m., a figure moved in on her front door. This was the critical moment captured by the very footage that was so painstakingly restored. What it shows is chilling a person hidden behind a mask, armed, wearing gloves, and hauling a backpack full of gear. The footage confirms a deliberate attack on the camera, first trying to shut it down, then trying to block its vision completely. At 2:28 a.m., just 11 minutes after the figure's arrival, Nancy's pacemaker app flatlined. Digital forensics show an intruder was inside the house for approximately 41 minutes. A grim discovery was made on the front steps: Nancy's blood, its identity confirmed by DNA analysis. The danger is escalating. Nancy relies on daily medication. Without it, her life is at risk. It has now been 11 days since she vanished. And now, for the first time, the public can see the person responsible. Not a face, not a name, but their silhouette, their movements, their methods. And the FBI is betting that this will be enough. They are certain that somewhere, someone is watching this footage, and a single, overlooked detail will finally click into place. It could be their walk, their build, that partially exposed mustache, that specific backpack, or the clothes they wore. Something will give them away. This stunning feat of technology, the video's recovery, has reignited the entire investigation. It provides a concrete lead for the public, while confirming the investigators' darkest theories about this abduction. This was a premeditated strike. This was a targeted attack. The person behind this knew about Nancy's security and came prepared to dismantle it. But even the most careful plans can leave a fatal flaw. And being prepared doesn't mean you leave no trace behind. The video evidence is now out in the open. The world is watching. Now, it's a desperate race against time to identify the figure in that footage before it's too late for Nancy Guthrie. At 12:10 p.m. Eastern Time this past Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, went to his X account and made a move the Bureau almost never makes. He broke protocol, releasing surveillance evidence from an active kidnapping investigation directly to the entire world. The release included 6 black and white photographs and 3 short video fragments, 9 separate pieces of visual proof, all brought back from digital death after 10 days of relentless work, all capturing the same terrifying series of events. A masked individual, armed, at Nancy Guthrie's front door in the dead of night. The social media post went live at precisely 12:10 p.m. It went viral in a matter of seconds. Within minutes, every major news outlet was broadcasting the story. And within the hour, millions of eyes, across the country and around the globe, were fixed on those images. This was the critical moment. The turning point the entire investigation had been fighting to reach. The silent war in the shadows was over. It was time to bring this fight into the light, using their most powerful weapon, the public. The hunt began with the FBI's official declaration. The bulletin's title was crafted with chilling precision: New Images in the Search for Nancy Guthrie. For 8 grueling days, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department had waged a relentless battle alongside private experts. Their mission to resurrect visual evidence that was almost lost forever. That choice of words. Might have been lost. Was a blade honed with intent. Not were lost. Not were destroyed. Might have been lost. Because this evidence hadn't vanished, it had been clawed back from the abyss of digital oblivion. This was a staggering victory for the digital forensics team, who refused to accept that the truth had been erased. The statement read on. Through this partnership, as of this morning, law enforcement has successfully unearthed these previously inaccessible images showing an armed subject who appears to tamper with the camera at Nancy Guthrie's front door on the morning she vanished. Previously inaccessible. For 10 agonizing days, these pictures were nothing more than digital phantoms, lurking in the system's grave. They were shattered fragments of data, scattered memories waiting for a master's hand to stitch them back to life. The Bureau's closing statement was both direct and pressing, a command to the public. The FBI is seeking information to identify this individual, not theories, not speculation. They needed cold, hard intelligence that could finally put a name to the masked figure in the footage. The Post blasted out multiple tip lines: 1-800-CALL-FBI and tips at fbi.gov. The Pima County Sheriff's Department number was also live, opening every possible channel for a fragment of the truth to come forward. Then came the core of the release, the very evidence that could turn the tide: the images themselves. This is what the world saw. 6 photographs, detailing 6 moments frozen in time. Frame 1. The subject approaches the front door, wrapped in a dark jacket, light-colored pants, a backpack slung over their shoulders, every movement filled with cold purpose against the pre-dawn gloom. Frame 2. A closer shot as the individual reaches the threshold. A ski mask is pulled down, completely obscuring the face. But even through the fabric, a crucial detail emerges: a mustache. Dark, prominent, and visible despite the desperate attempt at concealment. Frame 3 focuses on the gloved hands. These are heavy-duty rubber, the kind meant to leave no prints, to shield the skin from reality. One hand is lifted, reaching directly for the camera's watchful eye. Frame 4 reveals the weapon. A holstered firearm is clearly visible, resting on the front of the person's waistband. It's not hidden, it's on display, ready for violence, ready. Frame 5 offers a detailed look at the backpack. It's dark and appears packed full. Whatever tools or materials this person carried for their grim task were almost certainly inside that pack. Frame 6, the moment of obstruction. The subject is seen using foliage, some kind of plant, to physically blind the camera's lens. 3 video clips then gave motion to what the stills had captured. Video 1, running about 15 seconds, shows the silent approach. You can observe the subject's gait, their posture, the distinct rhythm of their walk toward their target. Seasoned investigators know a person's movement can be as unique as their face. Someone who knows this individual might recognize that walk. Video 2, only 12 seconds long, captures the tampering. The gloved hand enters the frame, moving toward the lens. The action is deliberate, methodical. This is not the work of someone in a panic. It's not rushed. This is an individual executing a calculated, cold-blooded plan. Video 3 lasts for approximately 8 seconds. It shows the obstruction, the leafy material pressed against the lens to block the view, and then the world goes black. The feed is severed. The camera, neutralized. Records no more. The total recovered footage about 35 seconds. That was at everything they could salvage 35 seconds of surveillance before the camera was rendered useless. But in that brief, resurrected window, investigators had everything they needed to show the world. An armed individual, a methodical approach, a deliberate act of tampering, and a systematic dismantling of security. This was someone who knew the camera was there. This was someone who arrived prepared to neutralize it. This was someone who believed they had wiped away all evidence of their monstrous presence. The images spread like wildfire. Within 2 minutes of FBI Director Patel's post, the sharing began. A digital manhunt picked up by agencies, news outlets, and true crime legions. Inside of 5 minutes, Nancy Guthrie had broadcast the images from her own Instagram account, a plea to the millions who watch her host the Today Show each morning. Her caption was short, but it carried the crushing weight of the past 10 days. We believe she is still alive. After 10 days, after discovering blood on the doorstep, after the pacemaker app had gone dark, after all that time without vital medication, there was still hope. Still faith. Still the desperate prayer of a daughter who refused to accept that her mother was truly gone. In an instant, a digital firestorm erupted. Thousands of comments flooded in, filled with prayers and vows to spread the images. A legion of online sleuths descended, desperately searching for any familiar clue, only to retract their findings moments later. False alarm. The build is wrong. One would post, another would hesitate. That walk, it reminds me of someone. Followed by, but I can't be certain. This chaotic, nationwide hunt was exactly what the FBI had gambled on. A digital dragnet cast by millions of eyes, all focused on a single, haunting clip. An entire nation became witnesses, searching their memories for a connection. It was a mobilization on a scale never seen before. By 12:30 p.m., a mere 20 minutes after the release, every major news network cut their broadcast. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, and CBS. All of them aired the same chilling footage, their screens blazing with the FBI's plea. Urgent alerts scrolled endlessly. Breaking news. FBI releases video in Guthrie case. An armed suspect is on camera. FBI urges public to identify suspect immediately. The cable news experts began their dissection. A panel of legends was assembled: former FBI agents, retired police detectives, and elite security consultants. Each offered their professional analysis. This individual knew exactly what they were doing, a former FBI profiler stated on CNN. The sheer level of preparation, the equipment, the cold, calculated way the camera was neutralized. This was a meticulously planned operation. On Fox News, a retired NYPD detective pointed out, "Look at that confidence, no hesitation, not a single nervous glance. This person is completely at ease approaching this property at 2 a.m. That suggests a chilling familiarity." By 1 p.m., the video had gone viral, shared hundreds of thousands of times across all platforms. The suspect's face became a phantom haunting every screen in the nation. Tucson's local news stations played the footage on a loop, interrupting their broadcasts every few minutes with the same clip. If you live in the Tucson area, if you recognize anything at all about this person, we urge you to call the FBI immediately. The tip lines ignited, overwhelmed by a flood of calls from across the country. Some callers swore they recognized something. Others offered wild theories. But all of them felt compelled to act. This was the overwhelming power of a public manhunt in the digital era. In only 3 hours, the FBI's video reached an audience of tens of millions, and the investigators were certain that somewhere in that crowd was the key to unlocking this mystery. Soon, The case reached the highest corridors of power. The White House itself responded, briefed on the investigation from the very beginning. With a prominent NBC journalist's family at the heart of it, the case demanded top-level attention. The president had even made a personal call on February 4th. He promised the full might of federal resources and expressed his hope for her mother's safe return. And now, with the footage out in the open, the White House prepared an official statement. During the afternoon briefing, the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, faced the nation's media. The president has personally reviewed the newly released surveillance footage in the Nancy Guthrie case. She began, "He encourages every American with any information to please call the FBI, who are continuing to assist the state and local authorities leading this investigation on the ground. The prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time." She continued, "We hope that this person is found swiftly and that her mother is brought home safely." But this was far more than a symbolic gesture from the White House. It was a clear signal that the highest levels of power were watching this case unfold. It forced the public to grasp the true gravity of the situation. It framed providing a tip as more than just helpful. It was now a patriotic duty. But this entire release was a calculated risk, as the FBI almost never reveals such crucial evidence. In reality, a move like this is unheard of. Law enforcement agencies always operate in the shadows. They follow leads without alerting their target, gathering proof without showing their hand. So, why now? Why show the suspect the exact card they were holding? Brianna Fox, a former FBI agent turned criminology professor at the University of South Florida, had the answer. She broke down the desperate strategy for the world to see. If they had solid DNA or fiber evidence, Fox explained, something that led directly to the suspect, that would have been Plan A, this is their best chance. Now, in other words, every conventional method had failed. Their investigation had hit a dead end. The blood at the scene was a dead end, belonging only to the victim. The assailant left no trace, no usable fingerprints, just the ghostly image of gloved hands. Forensics had salvaged the video, but it was a ghost, revealing nothing about the perpetrator's identity. The FBI had hit a solid brick wall. Their only remaining option was a desperate appeal to the public. Fox explained the high-stakes gamble. Releasing this footage is a calculated risk. You're showing the suspect your cards, but you're also deputizing millions of potential witnesses. Someone out there had to recognize them. The build, the posture, the specific way they walked. Someone might even recognize that backpack or those gloves. The possibility was undeniable. Someone knew exactly who this was. The strategy was painfully simple. The potential for a public tip was worth more than the risk of alerting the kidnapper. But another urgent pressure was mounting. The clock was ticking. Nancy Guthrie had already been missing for 10 days. Each day she went without her medication was a step closer to medical disaster. Every hour that vanished lowered the odds of finding her alive. The FBI had no luxury of time for a slow, conventional investigation. They were desperate for a breakthrough, and a public tip could deliver it faster than any traditional police work ever could. As the chilling surveillance video spread, experts from every field began to dissect its secrets. In the realm of behavioral analysis, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a top forensic psychologist, pointed out several crucial flaws in the kidnapper's disguise. "The mustache is a significant detail," she remarked in her interviews. "So many criminals assume a mask grants them total anonymity, but they fail to account for something like facial hair. A distinctive feature like that can be just as revealing as a full face, especially when you're narrowing down the pool of suspects." She added, "Their methodical execution of the crime speaks volumes." This is someone who is disturbingly comfortable with this kind of act. It suggests either a history of criminal activity or professional training being used for a dark purpose. Then, there was the analysis of the security system itself. Marcus Chen, a former security technician, offered his assessment. Nest cameras are built with multiple layers of recording, he clarified. They store footage on the device, but they also beam that data directly to cloud servers. Most people who try to disable them, he said, only attack the physical camera, not realizing data fragments can be pulled from the back end. The fact that the perpetrator used a physical barrier, that leafy material, likely in combination with some form of digital jamming, proves they have a deep, technical knowledge of these systems. That level of expertise points directly to a professional background in the security field. The investigation then turned to movement and gait analysis. Dr. Sarah Martinez, an expert in the field, explained that a person's walk can be as unique as a fingerprint, even when their face is hidden. Movement patterns are absolutely an identifier, she stated to CNN. The length of their stride, their posture, the way they shift their weight. These things create a signature that people close to them would recognize instantly, she said, speaking directly to the viewers. If you know someone with a similar build, watch how they walk. Compare it to this footage. Trust your gut. If any part of it feels familiar, make the call. With the footage released, the FBI revealed its ace in the hole, a $50,000 reward. $50,000 for any information leading to Nancy Guthrie's safe return, or the conviction of those responsible for her disappearance. That is a life-changing amount of money, more than enough to convince someone who was too afraid to speak up. It was a sum designed to draw out tips from the shadows, from people who would otherwise never get involved. The reward was a multi-pronged weapon. First, it was a powerful incentive for information. It also broadcasted the absolute seriousness of the investigation, giving witnesses a solid justification for coming forward without being seen as a snitch. An FBI spokesperson drove this point home in every public statement. We are desperate for the public's help. Somebody out there knows this person. Someone will recognize something in this video. And that single piece of information could be the key to bringing Nancy Guthrie home and holding her kidnapper accountable. But beyond the strategy and the investigation, there was the crushing emotional toll. Past the technical analysis and expert commentary was the raw, human heart of the tragedy. A daughter, forced to watch footage of the person who stole her mother. Her siblings, forced to witness the exact moment their mother was targeted and violently taken. Her grandchildren, trying to comprehend the nightmarish images. In an Instagram post sharing the video, Savannah offered no analysis. She refused to speculate. Her words were a simple, shattering plea. We believe she is still alive. Bring her home. 10 days of not knowing. 10 days of the worst imaginable scenarios replaying in her mind. 10 days of putting on a brave face for the world while being completely broken inside. The footage exists. The evidence is undeniable. This is what happened in the heart of darkness. At 2 a.m., a shadow materialized, approaching the mother's front door. Armed, masked, ready to steal an 84-year-old woman from her sanctuary. The video made the horror real, more than any report ever could. This was irrefutable proof, captured on film. The mother's own camera recorded the monster. Now, the hunt was on for one person. Someone who could look at this ghost and see a face they knew. Releasing the footage changed everything. The FBI's 24-hour command center was flooded. A torrent of tips pouring in from all corners. Every call was logged. Every single lead was dissected, weighed for truth and value. Veteran agents knew the truth the first 48 to 72 hours. That was the golden window, a window where the purest leads emerge. From people who recognize the truth in a heartbeat, their memories sparked by a single video, law enforcement worked through the night, sifting through tips, chasing shadows, and connecting the dots. They hunted for specifics, details only the culprit, or a true witness, would know. Tips that could bring the blurry image into focus. Tips from those with nothing to gain from a lie. And in that flood of data, they prayed for the one clue, the one thread that would unravel everything. The one person who could watch the clip and know, and with absolute certainty, who was behind the mask. Someone who could give the investigators a name, an address, and the missing link to Nancy Guthrie. The key to this entire abduction. The one witness who could lead them straight to her. That was the true power of this video. No matter what happened next in the Nancy Guthrie case, this release would be remembered as the turning point. The moment a closed case was thrown open to the world. Suddenly, millions of people became potential witnesses, their eyes scanning every frame, searching their memories for a flicker of recognition. And it was the exact moment the person behind this crime realized their fatal mistake. The video they thought was erased had returned from the grave, now seen by the entire nation. In an age of digital eyes, in a world of social media, where one image can circle the globe in hours, this is the new battlefield for justice, a fusion of old-school detective work, cutting-edge forensics, and the power of the people. The FBI found the tape. They unleashed it to the public. And now, they waited for the one person who knew the face hiding in the shadows. That one moment of recognition would be the key to bringing Nancy Guthrie home. The video was no longer just evidence. It became a nationwide call to arms, a silent plea for help, captured in motion. Watch this figure. Analyze every frame. Does anything seem familiar? Because somewhere, someone knows this person's name, and Nancy Guthrie's life now hangs in the balance. Let's dissect the footage, analyzing every critical frame. First, we see the subject moving towards the front door. The timestamp confirms it. The early hours of February 1st. Right inside the suspected abduction window, the subject moves with cold purpose. No hesitation, no nervous glances. This is someone walking towards a known target. Now, let's analyze the profile. The figure is wearing a dark ski mask, hiding their face completely, a dark jacket, and light-colored pants. They wear sneakers, heavy rubber gloves, and carry a backpack. Some sources even enhanced the images, revealing a crucial detail despite the mask: a distinct mustache, dark hair on the upper lip, a small detail that could be the key to everything. But then, we see the most chilling part. The subject is armed. Several frames clearly show a firearm, holstered right at their waistband. This was no random crime. This was a calculated attack. By someone prepared for a fight. The FBI's official report confirms it, describing the person as armed, just as the video shows. In at least one frame, the figure holds a flashlight in their mouth, a method for hands-free light, allowing them to disable the camera in the dark. This was a tactical move. It suggests someone trained, someone who knows how to operate in the shadows. The final clip shows the critical moment. The subject targets the camera directly. A gloved hand reaches out, trying to blind the only witness. In another piece of footage, a figure is seen wielding what looks like a handful of leaves, using the plant matter to methodically blind the camera's eye. This was no accident. This wasn't some clumsy burglar caught by surprise. This was the calculated move of a predator who knew he was being watched and came prepared. The FBI's conclusion on this is ironclad. The suspect deliberately tampered with the camera. That specific interference is why the video feed cut out. This was not an equipment failure. It was taken offline with purpose, a critical step in the abduction. According to the official timeline, NY's camera lost connection at 1:47 a.m. For 30 minutes, there was only silence, until the next event at approximately 2:17 a.m. In that moment, the camera registered movement. Investigators now confirm it was a masked figure, advancing on the device with a single goal to disable it. This timeline is absolutely vital. It proves the perpetrator was standing on New York's doorstep during the precise window the abduction took place. Then, at 2:28 a.m., only 11 minutes after the figure was spotted, NY's pacemaker monitoring system went dark. The sequence of events tells a chilling story. A figure approaches. The camera is neutralized. Minutes later, her vital medical feed is severed, and Nancy Guthrie is gone. That short surveillance clip speaks volumes about the meticulous planning and flawless execution behind this kidnapping. First and foremost, the attacker knew about the Nest camera long before he arrived. He didn't just discover it, he came equipped for it, wearing gloves to leave no prints and carrying the very foliage used to blind the lens. This deliberate sabotage confirms one of two terrifying possibilities: either the suspect had prior knowledge of the security system, or he had conducted reconnaissance. Ted Williams, a former DEACO homicide detective, has been analyzing the case, stating that this degree of planning points to someone intimately familiar with the residents. Williams explained it plainly. You don't go to a house at 2 in the morning with tools to block a camera unless you're already certain it exists. This points to a suspect who had either been on the property before or had received detailed intelligence on its security. Now, consider the detail that has haunted investigators from the very beginning. The intruder stayed inside NY's home for 41 minutes. Such a long time suggests a disturbing, almost arrogant level of confidence. With the camera footage, we now have the chilling context. This was no rushed, chaotic break-in. It was a methodical, step-by-step mission. Approach the target, disable surveillance, make entry, fulfill the objective, and escape. 41 minutes makes perfect, horrifying sense when you grasp the true level of planning at play. Model. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie is not just a headline. It is a haunting reminder that in our modern world, safety is a fragile sanctuary. This chilling case teaches us a profound lesson about the dual nature of our digital age. It is both a witness to our darkest hours and the beacon that leads us back to the light. The digital ghosts, resurrected from a destroyed camera, prove that no act of evil is truly invisible, even when a predator moves with ice-cold precision, thinking they have erased every trace. The truth leaves a trail. This story serves as a powerful call to communal vigilance. We are no longer just neighbors. We are the collective eyes of a nation. A single flicker of recognition, a familiar gait, a specific backpack, or a way of moving can be the thread that unravels a monster's web. But beyond the technology, there is the indomitable human spirit, Savannah Guthrie's desperate plea. We believe she is still alive, is the heartbeat of this tragedy. It reminds us to never surrender to silence. Let us honor Nancy by looking out for the vulnerable among us, for those whose voices are soft but whose lives are irreplaceable. In the race against time, your courage to speak is the ultimate weapon against the shadows.